contracting essentials. There should be some sort of contract or agreement um, when clients and grant professionals decide to move forward together. You want some sort of agreement written up. I have like a fairly simple agreement that has all of these things in it. It's a non kind of binding. It doesn't it's not um, holding anyone to a specific time frame. If they sign, we usually move forward with, we're going to work together for a year. But anyone can break up with each other, you know, with some, like 2 week notice type of thing. I'm personally not going to leave a client high and dry if something's coming up type of thing and make sure they're in a good place. But um, yeah, you want to have some sort of written agreement. And so that should include what the grant professional is willing to do for you and the deliverables on that engagement, the timeline, and kind of what that looks like through that time. Like, what are the milestones? What are the, how are we gonna, what's, what are we gonna do in a certain amount of time? So that way everybody keeps moving forward. The payment terms, that should be clearly stated of what, what kind of contracting system that you're using and when the payment's expected and if there's any kind of late fees or things like that. That should all be clearly stated. Confidentiality and data ownership, we talked a little bit about that. Things are confidential unless you don't necessarily want them to be, and that's kind of up to you then. But and then termination clauses, we talked about that just briefly, like, how do we part ways and what's the kind of the best way to do that and have that should be clearly written in to an agreement that somebody presents to you. If it's not, definitely ask, and I think it needs to go in. You need to understand how do we get out of this once we get into it. Um, and a conflict of interest statement. That's an interesting one too. Yeah, it's trying to think a good example of that. But um I'm blanking on a good example for that right now. Sorry. Maybe one will come to me. Maybe we'll have to come back to that. But um so best practice is that the nonprofit should retain ownership of all the grant materials. Everything that's written for you, you should have a copy of. I'm not always great about giving a final copy to clients. Sometimes I think I get excited about getting things submitted and then I just move on. But I've tried to get a lot better about they always have a copy of the grant, what's written, but sometimes what actually is in the portal can be printed out and I try to remember to do that so that everybody is kind of on the same page with what's in the portal. And usually if things get changed in the portal, it's just tiny commas and things like that. But um, yeah, those are important points to have in contracting essentials.